Hi, and welcome to Asian Agribiz Podcast. I'm Arif Fahrudin, Regional Correspondent Indonesia. In this series, our regional correspondent Thailand, Payungsak Wiryabunditkul, is speaking with Chaiwat Sowcharoensukan about Thailand's chicken export outlook. Mr. Chaiwat is an analyst for agricultural products and food at Krungsri Research Bank of Ayudhya.
Thailand has long been a major exporter of chicken products. According to Thai Broiler Processing Exporters Association, Thailand is expected to export 960,000 tons of frozen and processed chicken products in 2021, up 1% from last year. In the first 10 months of 2020, Thailand exported 770,000 tons of chicken meat products, with exports to the EU and Japan fell 15% and 1% respectively. COVID-19 continues to be a concern for the industry. If COVID-19 continues to drag on in key export markets, it will likely affect Thai exports. However, if the situation stabilizes and the restaurant and tourism sectors recover, Thai chicken exports will likely pick up. COVID-19 is just one factor for the industry. To get a bigger picture and outlook in the coming years, we talked to Kun Chaiwat Sowcharoensukan, an analyst at Krungsri Research, Bank of Ayudhya. Good afternoon, Kun Chaiwat. Thanks for joining this podcast. What are the opportunities and challenges for Thai chicken meat exports within the 2021 to 2023 period?
Okay, during such period, the Thailand's export growth of chicken products will depend on strong consumer base, such as demand from Japan and China. Due to the reliability of Thai chicken processor and high standard of Thai chicken processing. So I expect annual export of Thai chicken meat to grow at around 5 and 7%. That's supported by three factors. The first, over the year 2021 to 2023, global demand for chicken is projected to rise by an annual average of around 1%. Compare CAGR growth between 2011 and 2020 at 2.6%. Consumption would expand to 135 million tons annually from the 131 million tons consumed in 2020. This growth is partly driven by greater concern for consumer personal health and the increase in demand for low-fat foods to replace pork and beef. Second factor, the resurgence of bird flu or HPAI and African swine fever or ASF will hold back domestic output in some chicken producing and exporting countries such as Brazil, China, EU and the US, etc. And it will take some time for this to recover. At the same time, Thai chicken production and processing is widely recognized as international standard, and Thai produce is free from disease, which has afflicted the human, e.g. COVID-19, and animal pathogens. So, demand for imports from Thailand is expected to increase in many countries. Third factor, FTA or free trade agreements that signed between Thailand and its trade partner would benefit Thai producers by helping them to raise their competitiveness. However, processors would face rising input costs, which are derived from higher price of soy and corn. When input costs rise, this absolutely leads to more expensive chicken price. Also, Competition in world market will stiffen as several countries expand their chicken industry and players in other countries develop products to meet demand in export market. E.g. from Brazil, China, Ukraine, and Vietnam, etc.
That's interesting. So in your view, what competitive advantage do Thai chicken products have?
I think the overall Thai operations have their advantage in 5 aspects. The first, in the skill of the workforce. Second, their access to manufacturing technology. Third, the use of modern production technique. Fourth, their ability to develop products that effectively meet market demand. And the last, the high standard of their firms and success in controlling and preventing disease outbreak.
Yes, Thailand have, as you say, a competitive advantage for certain extent, but with COVID-19 still affecting the business and production landscape, how do you estimate market growth?
I think the overall we estimate Thailand chicken market growth to increase by 3 and 5% per year, which is based on the output of chilled, frozen, and processed chicken. In this growth, we will estimate the growth in both domestic and export market. On the domestic side, consumption of chicken meat is expected to rise in line with annual economic growth. Demand will strengthen by an annual average of 2.5 and 3.5% because the Thai economy is expected to rebound and the food and restaurant industry would recover. For export market, growth will depend on a strong consumer base, such as Japan and China. This will be supported by the reliability of Thai chicken processor, with high international standard. So, Thai chicken export growth is estimated at 5 and 7% per year. That boosted by 3 factors. First, stronger global demand. Second, outbreak of bird flu and ASF that will disrupt supply from affected nations. And the last, the signing of FTA between Thailand and its trade partner and the competitive advantage that Thai exporter will gain from this. Currently, the COVID-19 pandemic will have adverse impact on many industries and the world economy, but it is an opportunity for Thai chicken industry. The reason are in the increasing sale in overseas market, which have been boosted by the closure of chicken processing plant in some countries and by outbreak of bird flu in major chicken producing in countries and African swine fever in China. And the Thai processor have high standard of production. Overall, this has encouraged some buyers to switch to Thai suppliers.
Yes, interesting, Khun Chaiwat. You have mentioned free trade agreement in your previous remark. Thailand has also inked a number of free trade agreements. What opportunities do you see for intra-regional trade and why?
Currently, Thailand has agreed to 13 free trade agreements with 18 countries, and 9 of these allow for duty-free imports of meat products from Thailand. Given the free trade agreements between Thailand and trading partners, this helps to strengthen the competitiveness of Thai operations and expand markets for Thai chicken meat products. Export value of Thai chicken meat increased. For the example, in 2019, export value of Thai livestock product to countries with which it was negotiated FTAs reached at 3.3 billion USD, or 82% of the value of our export of livestock product. For export of fresh and processed chicken meat increased by an average of 15% and 7% respectively. And in the coming period, the Department of Trade negotiations will engage in discussions about signing FTA that will include liberalization measures. This would expand trade in meat products with Turkey, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, United Kingdom, and the European Union. And assuming these negotiations are successful, export of Thai chicken is likely to rise in the coming period.
Interesting, Kun Chaiwat. Let's move to another question. In terms of production costs and feed prices, what should producer anticipate?
In my opinion, feed price would rise triggered by higher price of maize, around 60 and 65% used as raw material for animal feed that you know, and soybean meal. The maize or corn has strong demand from producers of alcohol, ethanol, and industrial solvents. This results in rising production costs, so producers will be exposed of risk of rising input costs from price of maize and soybean meal, bring chicken meat price to be more expensive. In terms of profit, in the next 3 years, if input costs pick up, especially chicken meat, affected by price of animal feed and intense competition from other chicken import nations, this may weigh on industry profit, but that should remain healthy.
Let's move on. How do you see Thailand's chicken meat production in coming years, Kun Chaiwat?
The main key factor is the business conditions will improve in the chicken processing industry with output rising and demand both domestic and export, strengthening in step with economic recovery. We foresee that the domestic chicken production should rise by 4 and 5% per year to 1.7 and 1.8 billion broilers, and 2.5 and 2.8 million tons of meat, is thanks to stronger demand from domestic and export market, and the incentive given to farmers by price that will rise to 35 and 36 Thai baht per kilo. Moreover, the chicken industry will gain incentive provide to 3 factors. First, farmer to raise farm gate and global price. Second, government and private sector support for producer. And third, recovering demand from the food processing and tourist and restaurant industry recover.
Of course, Thailand has some bright outlook prospect, but in the next 5 to 10 years, what are the key risks and concerns for Thailand's chicken exports, Kun Chaiwat?
In the next 5 and 10 years, I view that Thailand is at risk of losing its current advantage in export market, because within the industry, Thailand cost of labor and other factors of production are rising, but Thailand's biggest competitors, e.g. Brazil, costs are significantly lower. Production is organized into larger units, and production systems are more modern and less labor intensive. Thailand is also exposed to greater risk through its dependency on import stock, mostly from Europe and the United States. And if disease affect distribution in this country, this would limit Thailand's ability to expand production for a period of time.
Yes, Thailand have, as you say, both opportunity and risks in this industry. So thank you for sharing your insightful analysis on this podcast for ASEAN Agribiz listener. Many thanks, Kun Chaiwat.
Okay, I really appreciate the chance to have an interview with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thailand's chicken industry has high production standards and competitive advantage. However, the industry is facing rising production costs due to higher feed prices. Also, the industry will have to deal with structural challenges in the longer term. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this series useful. You can download it on www.asian-agribiz.com. I'm Arif Farudin, signing off.